like I said, so I want to say thank you for your time on this, and just shout out Kevin, Slow Jam, and James for basically making this possible. Um, you know, growing up in California, the state of, how did that shape you as a youth and to get into DJing?
Man, I tell the story all the time. When I was a youngster growing up in Compton, we had parties all the time, dances, parties, places to get together. And even I went to Catholic school. We still had noon dances and after school dances. So watching people play records, it wasn't DJs back then, it was just people playing records. And then later on, I went to some of the park dances. Some of the radio station DJs would come out and play records, and they had so much control over the crowd. I just wanted to be able to do that one day. And I thought you had to become a radio DJ to become a park DJ. So I went to broadcast school and learned how to be a radio broadcaster with the intentions on coming back, playing in the park, which I never did, but that's okay. I did a whole lot more.
That's right. That's right. No, this is obviously back in the day when there weren't any CDJs or there was no sync button neither.
Man, it wasn't even a real disco mixers back then, dude. No, there was no such thing as a disco mixer. When I first started playing with a component sets. I'd had the record playing or the 8-track playing, and I'd stop it just in time for the 8-track would change over, or just I know how to talk at an early age because I was a broadcast DJ. So I would talk in between changing records. So I'm talking the whole time while I'm trying to change a record. And later on, after about 2 years, I finally found a band mixer that allowed me to plug 2 turntables into it. And I would just, fade them in and out manually. So, and still no crossfader.
Growing up, like in that time period, what were some musical influences that you really liked? Obviously, as you're watching this, you could see what works in a crowd, but to you, what did you really like?
Man, I was always into the Ohio Players, dude. You're talking to a kid that was raised in the 70s. So Ohio Players was always one of my favorite. Our Isley Brothers, all these guys were, contrary to popular belief, they were all big party records back then. Love Roller Coaster. One of the Ohio Players' first songs, Pain, was a big party record for me as a kid. So we partied to a lot of soul music, R&B music. So we might be partying to I don't know, James Brown or Joe Tex, somebody crazy that nobody would ever think today that would be a party record. That's how it was back then.
Did you ever have any experiences where you had to learn the hard way of how the weather affected the records if they got too hot?
Yeah. I learned later on as I became got more active in promoting. I would go out to the park and play in the park, and there was no shade. And I noticed my record started to warp. And cause I just pull up in my van, set my table out front, and I'm beaming. It's beaming, no shade, no trees whatsoever. Cause I'm basically playing up against the curb. And but I also learned how to fix it too.
Right.
And that was another thing. You had to heat them up a little bit and just slightly put them in the oven and put something on them, put something heavy on it that it didn't stick to, and you could fix a lot of times you could fix that problem.
It was crazy. It's like I'm 24. Like people my age or even younger or even older don't even know about stuff like that.
Nah, I mean a lot of stuff that back then you had to be a DJ, a MC, and a technician, man.
Right.
It was a whole different, and you had to be a mover because to do a party back in the 70s, man, everything was heavy as hell, dude. It was like moving a 1-bedroom apartment 4 times in one night. Now I say this anytime I do an interview. By the time you grab 2 or 3 BGWs, a couple of BM, a Thurman Vegas, a console, 12, 13 crates of records. Dude, you just moved the bedroom, a dresser, a nightstand, and some other stuff 4 times. The same weight. And just you stick it into the van, go to the party, unload it, wrap up the party, load it back in, and you dare not leave your equipment in the truck. So you had to unload it at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning back in the house. So yeah, you had to have help. And it was a very physical job.
When you were starting to learn and you going to school for it, things like that, who really taught you time signatures and beat matching and things like that?
There was none of that back then, Doc. It was just blending. The biggest thing I learned as a DJ was programming. programming, and there was a term they used, dead air. In radio, silence is cost you money. So they taught us never to have dead air. If you were on the radio and you had not pulled a record, start talking. Do not let silence reign out. But most of all, they taught us how to program. And as a house party DJ, which was what I was for years, you had to learn how to program for different crowds. And what I mean by that is, if you're playing for a young crowd, they can go 30 minutes straight, 40 minutes straight, just all tempo, because they got the energy. But if you're playing for an older crowd, they don't have the same energy level. So you have to break it down a little faster, give them some cha-cha, some slow records so they can catch their breath, because it's not, once you burn them out, you'll never get them up again.
When you were doing that, how are you reading a room? Were you just playing it by the feeling in the moment?
Yeah, dude. And that was one of the things that being a programmer, you learned. You have to watch people's body language. Bodies don't lie. And you sitting there, and you're in the beginning of a set. Not a lot of people are there, but you got a couple of people that's tapping their feet, bobbing their heads, singing along with you. But they may be in a whole nother conversation, and you start watching people around them, how your songs start to affect their body language, and then you start getting the algorithm that you can flow to. And most cats don't know how to do that. I mean, that was something that we was taught, how to read body language.
Right.
Okay. And once you understand how body language will give you ideas on how to go, you just start playing from there.
Did you ever have any problems, like in the very beginning of getting control of the room? Like specific, like did anybody ever try to like put their hands on you when they didn't what they wanted?
No, dude. The most you would get back then, because understand, I come from the house party era. I had to be at the house party at 7:00. And the old ladies in the kitchen, I'm set up ready to go. They in the kitchen, they singing along with me. They listening to me. I don't know they listening. But if I play something else, play that same song later on, they'll let you know, hey boy, you played that song already about 7:00. I didn't know you was paying me. I'm paying that, listen to everything you're saying, everything you're doing. So once you understand, people not all, just because they're not dancing, don't mean they're not listening. So I never got pressed tonight. There was never that kind of party. Nah. It was just more ladies. All right, you played that already. I heard that twice tonight already. I don't play it no more. Okay, something like that. That's the most you would get.
Totally. Like on a side note, and this is honest to God the truth. I grew up at my Uncle Jim's house, and when he passed away, the family was changing a lot of the paperwork, and the home insurance went up, or the home insurance expired. And my general liability expired. I had all my DJ equipment in his house after he passed away. And it's not confirmed still to this day, but there were squatters living across the bridge.
Okay.
And all my studio equipment was stolen from me. And did you ever, I'm cool now. I got new equipment. Insurance isn't going to lapse like that ever again for me. But did you ever go anything through like that before?
Yeah, I got knocked at one of my clubs. Somebody broke into the club and stole my equipment, my whole DJ system. Stole it on a Thursday night, which being Friday night, I didn't have a gig. But it was fortunate enough for me, man. I got a bunch of buddies in the sound business, so they just started bringing me mixers and amps and whatever I needed to get up and running. And that was just a beautiful thing. They got me on a Thursday night. I had one of those real nice, damn it, I can't think of the name of mixers, and I was using CDJs at the time, and stole that, a lot of my CDs, and my gold record, my first gold record, Master P's, Mr. Ice Cream Man, I had that in the hallway. They stole all of my stuff, man, and my boys came through that afternoon. I put a call out, and next thing I know, I had a whole system put back together, matter hours.
How did you control your anger in that moment? Because I had to learn the hard way how to control my anger with what happened to me.
Man, it happened when I was in my late 40s, early 40s. I had so much other stuff to worry about. I didn't have time. Retaliation wasn't even on my mind at that time. I found out who did it, and they eventually got dealt with, but it was nothing I had to do, put it that way.
Right.
When you rocking with when you're on a nightclub, you have a lot of supporters, a lot of friends, and people on your behalf don't like seeing people mess over you. So they take it upon themselves. Hey man, don't worry about this situation. I couldn't get nothing back, but they ain't gonna steal nothing else.
Right. People that usually do that, they have everything to gain versus people like you who have everything to lose.
Right. And I tell the story sometimes, man. I'm gonna tell it to you since you're a youngster. When I had a club, Eve After Dark, I was young hothead, dude. I was not the calm, cool, collective cat you seeing today. And this guy was downstairs doing some things he wasn't supposed to be, and just so happened he was doing it right downstairs under the door of the owner's office. An old man called me upstairs. Lonzo, get up here. I'm 25 years old. I'm balling. He says, what's going on? I said, I'm finna kick this cat's ass. I'm tired of him doing whatever he was doing. It was getting on my nerves. And the old man looked at me and says, hey, does this guy have a club full of people? They just gave him $5 a party. I said, nope. Does this guy have a brand new car in the parking lot? Nope. Does he have a house paid for? I had a house paid for at 25. I said, nope. He said, what you think he got? I said, he ain't got nothing, probably. He said, so you telling me you're gonna risk everything you got for somebody who has nothing? Man, the bells went off. My whole line of thinking changed from that point on. When you start getting ready to do a revenge, you got to understand that goes both ways. Just because you think it's personal, it's not personal. It goes legal. And when it goes legal, the people that prosecute supersede the people that you're dealing with. So the person that you're dealing with may forgive it, but the law ain't gonna forgive it. Ask Keefy D.
Right.
Ask Keefy D. You thought you was doing retaliation for your nephew. Meanwhile, you was part of a murder.
Right.
The streets and the courtrooms don't have the same understanding. You can't do something in the streets and not expect for it to jump off in the courtroom. So that's what, once you understand that, you realize certain things ain't worth the hassle. Yeah, he got you, like, buy some insurance, but get a better lock. Okay. If you catch him, you catch him. If you don't spend your time trying to retaliate, because shit can escalate. And next thing you know, you must be facing a murder case, a manslaughter beef, whatever the case. It ain't worth the hassle.
Right. I appreciate your advice on that, sir. Because that was you feel like, for lack of a better example, I feel like someone saw you naked. Someone came in your house and stole your heart.
Yeah, they caught me slipping, man. They caught me slipping, and I had to eat that, man.
When you were forming, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was a cease and desist before you could actually call it World Class Wrecking Crew the way you spelled it.
Right.
But after you formed it, and you have DJ Yella and you have Dr. Dre at the time, but what do you see in these guys that makes you think, okay, these guys have something versus somebody else that you might have seen that didn't?
They had the aptitude to want to learn. Yella was a drummer. He was a drum major at his school at Compton High. So he was used to, and he plays drums. Dre came to me as a DJ, knowing how to blend and mix very well. And Clientele won a rap contest at Eve After Dark. So I'm like, okay, I got the elements. Now here's the crazy part. I never wanted just to be a record label owner. I've been trained in theater. I've been on stage and various plays and debate classes, and I've always wanted to be a performer, but I couldn't sing. So rap gave me an opportunity to live out one of my childhood dreams. So I had the money. The Eve After Dark gave me the funding to produce the records. I got the guys here in the club that were able to support whatever I needed to do, and we just made it happen, man. It was one of them things that there was no reason for us not to do it. We didn't have any anything stopping us from doing. The only thing we stopped us from doing was the experience on how to make records, and we learned how to do that. I learned how to do that pretty fast. So it wasn't so much you had to make them yourself; you just had to know where to go to get them made at. Once you understood the process, we made it happen.
Now, how did you how did you even get the building to do Eve After Dark?
Being a young DJ, me and my partners were doing dances all over LA, and there's one spot in LA called Alpine Village, which is not far from my house. We did that dance on a regular basis. And my dad, who was a big part of my life, came to my room one day, saw me with a pile of money. He thought I was selling dope. He was ready to kick off in my behind majorly. Hey, I'm not selling dope. I get my money over here at Alpine Village. We knew where Alpine Village was. He passed right by it every day going to work. And one night he came by Alpine Village to see what I was doing. And that particular night, we had it packed to the rafters. And his friend had just built a second story to his nightclub. It was a banquet hall. And he introduced us. I knew the guy. We all lived in the same neighborhood, but I knew him as my daddy's friend, not as a potential landlord. And because he and my daddy were drinking buddies, he said, I'll give you a shot. And he did. But the deal is, you need to be here every week, not just once a month. Huh? Every week? I'm 22 years old, man. I ain't got this kind of money. He said, don't worry about the money. Just show up and do what you got to do. And we made the money. You know, he never took a few times. We were short. He worked with us. He worked with us till we got consistent. That was something, man, that I'll never forget. And that's probably why I've been so open to help other people in the past. Somebody helped me out, man, when I was a youngster. Somebody gave me opportunity I couldn't even afford to take, but he believed in me, gave me a shot, and that's how I got Eve After Dark. And after about 5 or 6 months of struggling, man, we finally hit a stride that was just unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable.
Would you say your father, with that being said, would you say your father was the one that initiated the entrepreneurial workflow in you?
No, yes and no. I was already an entrepreneur. I was already disco construction, doing parties, doing dances, but my old man helped me elevate.
Right.
And that was something that I would have never done if he hadn't have made that suggestion. I was comfortable being a mobile DJ. I'm 22, man.
Right.
Who at 22 years old think he could actually be a nightclub owner?
Right.
Okay. I have no nightclub experience. I have promotion experience. I have DJ experience. I'm not a nightclub owner, but because he thought I could do it, and basically I had been doing it, just didn't know what I was doing, and being able to manage people. And the old man that ran the club, he wasn't just a landlord; he was a mentor. So I got him and my dad kind of keeping me on track. Hey, man, do this right here. Don't do that right there. Do this right here. So I got mentors that's guiding me through this thing, man. And that made a big difference for me. Gave me longevity, dude. I stayed at Eve After Dark. I opened it in 1979, June 22nd, 1979. I ran it off and on for over 40 years.
How did that environment change in that club, man, when George Clinton came out in the 80s?
Man,
I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine that at all. I
have seen every fashion trend that ever hit the streets. When I first opened Eve in 79, man, it was disco, soul, and funk all at the same time. And hip hop was just making this debut. So everybody was there to party, man. You would never wear a pair of tennis shoes to Eve After Dark. Never would do it. You wouldn't be caught dead at Eve After Dark in tennis shoes and sweatshirt. You would not do it. Eve After Dark was an upscale teen club, dude. We had the dress code, and you had to adhere to that dress code to get in Eve After. No jeans, no tennis shoes. You had to wear a collar shirt. That was the era of clubs in general, and Eve After Dark, because of the teen club, I wanted to be more like Soul Train and not Romper Room. So that was the vibe we had on there. But then you got funk music, you got R&B with Roger dropped Zap, and that shit, man, pop locking came into play hard. Same thing with Atomic Dog. All these records, man, just changed the vibe of the streets. Because, did you understand how many different bad musicians we have at this era? We got Prince, we got Mike, we got George, we got Roger, we got Rick James. We got all these cats at the same time, man. Meanwhile, Chic is still doing their thing. SOS Band, Slave is doing their thing. You got all this at the same time, man. You just inundated with funk.
One of my favorite records that I grew up on was Change the Glow of Love, the Luther Vandross.
Yeah, you got Luther.
how if you can remember how specifically impactful was that record, because they called it a Chic ripoff.
The
And
Glow of Love by Prince. I mean by Luther Vandross, man. In this era I'm talking about, we played that record, man. We played that record. The Glow of Love, we played we played Bad Boy, okay?
right.
You have to understand, man, at this era right here, this probably was one of the most eclectic eras of music that I can recall. Because we still got disco we playing, man. We still dropping KC and the Sunshine Band. We're still playing Bell and James, Living It Up Friday Night. Okay, you got all these songs. You got Flashlight and Aqua Boogie. You got all this shit to choose from, dude. And then Prince is dropping songs like Head. And Let's Work. All this shit at the same time.
Right.
You just, and then you got Mike. Okay, so you just got so much to choose from. And that's why at Eve After Dark, we had 4 DJs. I was one of them. I played the peak shift for a while, then I started not playing as much. But we had 4 DJs all the time, because every DJ pretty much had his own kind of format. Everybody played something different. It was some songs we would replay because it was so popular. But for the most part, everybody had a kind of a groove that they would set at a certain time, and it just made for an all-night party. Eve opened at 10 o'clock. It closed at 4, sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning, man. We played a loophole for almost for the first 3 years, 4 years, from 79 to like 83. We rolled on a loophole that said no jukebox, no live entertainment after 2 o'clock. It didn't say shit about DJ. So we didn't have alcohol, so we just danced until a cop realized that that we were past 2 o'clock in the morning, and he made it his personal duty to go to the county of LA, because Eve was in the county. Eve was not in Compton. People think it's in Compton. It's not in Compton. It's just outside of Compton, about a half mile from Compton, but it's close enough for Compton people to be a part of it. And he had DJ added to that ordinance, and we had to start shutting down at 2 o'clock like everybody else.
When you were on the come up, on the rise, something myself and my buddies, you got to learn as you go. I feel like that's the only way you could do it. But how did you personally master the art of being told no or denied? Because if that could turn the hustle into another route that actually makes you win more over here instead of over here, which way you wanted to go initially.
When you say the art of dealing with no,
right? If you want to do something and someone's like, oh, you can't play this record, you can't party here, you can't chase your dream, you can't do whatever you wanted. Back then it was actually in your face or word of mouth. Now a lot of this is on the internet now. How did you deal with that if you did?
They told me no a lot of times. They told me I couldn't own my own record company. Why not?
Right.
You can't be in the group and own the record company too. Why not? Just because nobody else did it don't mean I can't. And that was something I got to give to my dad. Okay. And he told me, always ask questions. Don't take somebody else's word to be gospel. Because just because it's never been done don't mean it can't be done. There was no reason, again, like I said before, there was no reason for me not to form World-Class Wrecking Crew. Because there was, who do I ask?
Right.
I don't need to ask permission to start a group. I don't need permission to do that. I don't need permission to start a record company. I don't need permission to be in the group. Who I gotta ask? And that's always been, once I did that, it became a part of my personality. Okay. If there is no law, if I ain't going to jail or getting beat up or being fined for it, I'm finna do it.
Right.
Until you tell me I can't. Tell me why I can't do it. Make me understand why I can't do so and so and so. But I tell you what, when I did become the first group leader to be in the group and on the label, guess what else happened? Who else followed right behind me? Eazy-E, Luke,
right,
Puffy,
right.
All these guys before Lonzo, most guys were signed to a record label. Record label was owned by somebody else, and the group were the artists. But Lonzo, like, no, I'm gonna do something different. Easy was one of my first mentees in the record industry. That's very well documented.
Right,
Easy came to me for everything. So he watched me form Crew Cut Records and lead the World Class Wrecking Crew. He formed Ruthless Records and eventually became the leader of NWA and a solo artist. I tried to be a solo artist. I'm not that good. I understand my limitations. Okay.
Right.
But that also opened the door for so many other guys, Master P, Luke, Puffy. So that became a new precedent that when you think about it, who was the first person? It was Lonzo.
Right.
Okay. Lonzo got it from James Brown. James Brown had his own label, okay, and he was a fucking artist and he owned the label. But who did it for hip hop? Lonzo.
Now, when you're something that like a life lesson that I want to ask you about specifically that I always kind of was interested in is when you walk into a room and you're like, let's say you're gonna go through one of your parties, and let's say one of your partners is pissed off, he's having a bad day, and he puts his energy onto you. How do you make sure that doesn't come on to you?
Man,
because that's something I've had to learn the hard way of how to deal with, but I've learned with it better, I would say.
Again, I wasn't the same Lonzo you see. I'm 69 years old, and I was 24. I was a motherfucker. Hey man, get the fuck out of that bullshit, okay?
Right.
Leave me alone. Don't bring it over here, dude. Or I try to talk to him. Hey man, what's happening? Oh man, all right. And understand this, because I had been mentored by my dad and a lot of other men, I had some wisdom that a lot of cats didn't have. So I would drop game on them, and if you accepted it, fine. If not, maybe you go in the corner and think about it. Okay. So and then the other time, hey man, not right now, dude. I'm busy. I'm doing a party. And then if you hanging with somebody that's having a party or doing a party, and the party is jamming, you're only gonna stay mad so long.
Right.
You're only gonna stay mad so long. Something gonna catch your eye, catch your ear, and it may, because your boy played a certain song, it may lifted your spirits and got you out of that funk that you was in. So all those factors, man, come into play.
That's true. That's right. That's a good point, sir. That's a very good point.
And stop calling me sir.
I
appreciate the respect. Hey, I'm Lonzo, dude. And something else, the old man that I hung out with, you couldn't call them sir, man. They would not let me, man, sir. No, man, I'm Jeffy. I'm so and so. Okay, probably Mr. Jeffy, but you ain't got to call me sir. Okay. I appreciate your respect, but it's a level of commonality too.
Right.
In my book, so
right.
That's just me.
You're sensei now too.
I'm a sensei. Yes,
that's
sir.
What I call you. That's what I call you.
Off. Okay.
This is right. When I was a kid, I actually got introduced to him as an actor first.
Okay.
He was on one of his comedy movies. He was chasing his son when he was on the bus, and his face was like he was surprised. Ice Cube, I got introduced to him as an actor first.
Okay.
You seeing him as a teen first.
Teen.
What did you see in him when you first met this kid at this point in time?
Cube came to me as a 3-man group. It was him, KD, and Jinx. They were all going to Washington High School, not far from my house. They were called the Stereo Crew. And they were all about maybe 15, 16 years old. One thing about them, all 3 of them are born around the same time. They're all 3 Geminis. Okay. And I'm a Gemini. So we had the commonality. And I thought that was cool. I was going to call them 3Gs, but they didn't like that name. So they was stuck with Stereo Crew. And he was always the most laid back. He was always the one that was watching. Jinx was always in your face. KD was super cool, still is. But Jinx was the one, he was a spider on the wall that was watching everything. He was that spider on the wall that, he was always trying to show me different kind of lyrics. At that time, hip hop was so new. I was busy doing record shit. I didn't really pay attention to a lot of the stuff he was doing. Okay, I could lie and say, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do that to you, man." I didn't pay attention. I listened and I thought it was good. I didn't know exactly what he was doing, and that's one of the things that I learned from my sensei is that he didn't know what the fuck I was doing. He just let me do it. It was not his wheelhouse to understand what I was doing. He just his thing was, don't get me arrested, don't get my business shut down. And the same thing here. Do what you got to do, man. It just, as long as it works, it works. I ain't got to understand how the sausage is made. Just make it taste good.
Back then, did you ever think he'd be the one that would be doing fuck the police?
No. You got to understand that I met these guys that were youngsters. I'm triple OG.
Right.
Let's do the numbers right quick. Right now, I'm 69 years old. Cube just turned 50 something. So I know for a fact I'm 12 years older than he is. So if he's 16, I'm 28.
Right.
Okay. So I don't see the kids people see right now. I'm looking at a kid. I'm not looking at somebody who's been through the NWA thing, who's been through fuck the police, I had to go back and relearn him. And then when I talk to him, we talk right now, it's like going back to where it was.
Right.
I know he's a powerful cat now, but we still have that, that old school relationship. He's glad to see me from a triple OG perspective, not just a fan. I'm a fan, but I'm not a fanboy. Hey man, that's my dude. I love him to death. But hey man, he looks out for me as somebody who was there for him in the beginning, and that's respectful.
With especially you being much older at the time than him, a lot of the language they were using in those records. I can't speak for you, but I'm sure if you said those words in your household when you were a kid, it would have been a real big problem.
I'd have got fucked up.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Simple as that.
Right.
Up. All right. And that was something that for my generation, I had to struggle. I struggled with for a long time, still do. Because some of the things these guys say today, even as world-class wrecking crew, on one of our records called House Call. Okay, House Call, the last part of House Calls, Shakespeare says, hey, you left your driver license over here. Now I got to kick your ass. We couldn't even say the A in ass. We had to edit out the A in ass. Okay? That's what we're talking about, 86. So to see people get away with pretty much cussing people out on records today is like, damn, y'all should have taken that cuss real well. Okay, y'all could have told me y'all was the people cuss. I could have made a hell of a platinum record by now. I've been cussing all my life, but at that time it wasn't permitted.
Right.
So to see somebody like Cube do fuck the police and cussing become almost mandatory, it was a very big shock for me. And there were some things my personal DNA won't allow me to do.
Right.
I still don't cuss in front of girls. I still don't cuss in front of old women. I ain't gonna do it. I was different, man. I was raised differently. I work with a lot of city council people, a lot of people from churches and stuff like that. It's just certain things as a man that grew up in my generation, I can't do.
Right. Would you say it's that bad factor? Is that why cursing probably became prominent? Was because it's like you're not really supposed to be saying that?
Well, cursing reminds me of an era that back in the 70s, being rebellious.
Right.
We had a rebellious stage in the 70s as well. It was all about freedom and fuck the establishment and shit like that. And you wore big ass natural, or you wore your hair real long, and that all that shit was all fine and dandy in the 70s when they was doing peace rallies and peace signs and hippies and shit like that. But at some point in time, that shit wasn't paying no money, and everybody got a haircut. It just changed. They changed their perspectives. That happened back then because the establishment was still in control. The establishment, it don't run the streets like it used to. The social media does. So social media has got people to conform in ways they never thought they would.
Right.
People are being I ain't gonna say forced. They're being trained to accept things they never thought they'd had to accept. I don't want to get too deep on that.
Right. One of my favorite artists got to be Snoop Dogg. Actually, got the doggy style bomber jacket behind me. Actually,
okay.
When he was first coming up, and Dr. Dre was he was already in Dr. Dre's camp after Deep Cover and things like that. what was your impression of this new guy who's in Dr. Dre's camp at this point in time?
I didn't think much of him at first because he was first he was fighting made a murder trial. I didn't think he was going to make it for a long time. Once he beat the trial, and I saw the Doggy Style album cover, and I heard the album, I was in love. I thought he was the baddest dude. When I was confused, how can he get away with all this cussing and shit? But hey, man, this was the 90s, and things had changed. Things had changed dramatically. And here's the cool part about it. He made all those songs were great dance songs.
Right.
They were great. They were great for the dance floor. And that's one thing about OG gangster rap that I can't say for the stuff we have out today. Man, some of the coldest dance songs back in the 90s and the 80s was gangster songs.
Right. Right.
Okay. Gangsters knew how to make you dance. Quick, Dre, Timberland, all of them, Missy, all of them. That street sound that we came with, G-Funk era, Warren G, man. As a DJ, remember, I never stopped playing.
Right.
I never stopped playing, so I always had to have my ear to the streets when it came to music. So to be able to go to the club and play 50 Cent, play Cube, whatever the case may be. And I've owned 6 nightclubs in my career, Doc. And those 6 nightclubs, I was a DJ most of the time. And here's something I tell you was really crazy. When I closed my last club down, Eve After Dark, I closed it down in 2019. They brought me in to play at the club a couple nights a week over in LA. And the damnedest thing happened to me, dude. I'm playing all these oldies and shits from the 70s. And this old lady said, "Could you play Biggie Smalls?" Biggie, you know about Biggie? Old lady might be in the 70s. Can play. What you know about Biggie Smalls? She said, "Nigga, please."
Hey, so, she knows what's good.
And she dude.
Which record was it? Which track was it?
Going Back to Cali.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Going Back to Cali, and it was, I forgot. You know, I'm bad with titles, man. I just know the records when I see them most of the time. But the other song he has, Going Back to Cali was the one. Then they love DMX.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we talk about people in their 60s, dude.
Right.
Because again, 20 years ago, they was in their 40s.
When you first saw the Doggy Style album cover, did you automatically think, because there's the Rapper's Delight influence on the bricks? Did you see that at first? I'm like, okay, that's cool. Or did you think at the time, man, this guy's ripping off? Because at the time, this is a brand new piece of artwork. It's not iconic as it is now.
I thought whoever made the album cover grew up reading George Clinton album covers.
Okay.
Because if you ever see a George Clinton album, the liner notes of a George Clinton album, it's a comic book. It's one big ass comic book. And we used to read those things, man, and you would always discover something different. They had a lot of nuances that you might overlook. And the Snoop Dogg album cover had that with the dog, with the dog, the head, the ass hanging at the doghouse, and all the little things around it that just made it so unique and so engaging. It gave you something to look at that you never had before. Then you open it up and you kept doing the same thing.
Right.
And we missed that kind of artwork. Man, liner notes would help people learn how to read, dude.
I remember back in, I'm 24, back when I was in middle school or freshman year of high school, so that'd be 2016, I would buy my CDs and I'd put them on my laptop, which would sync to my phone.
Okay.
And my friends at school would be like, "Dude, what are you doing? Like, just buy it off of Apple iTunes." This is before Apple Music, because Apple Music was 2016, the summer of.
Okay.
So I'd be like, "Yo, you could discover who did the stuff by reading the booklets, especially with the Snoop Dogg, Kool-Aid, and all those records."
Right.
It's a comic book, and you have the written by, produced by, and my friends at school wouldn't care about that stuff, but I did. So it'd be interesting to see the younger generation is more based off of convenience than history. Not care. Everybody, but it's just interesting. This is why I like talking to you and people around you, because it's just like, this is what I like.
I'm gonna tell you this right here. This ain't a commercial, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. I just created a line of trading cards, hip hop trading cards, all about my history. Okay. from 1978 to current, what I'm doing right now. And because so many people have short attention span. I have a book out, NWA, Now Without Alonzo, on Amazon. Got to give myself a plug.
Right.
But I realized, we're in the TikTok generation. They'll rather take a small piece of one story and study that. You got a few lines on the back page of the book that gives you the information about this story, and as opposed to the whole book that you might not read the whole book. So like I said, I created a line of trading cards. In each one of these trading cards, there's a picture, there's something on the front, something on the back that gives you something to look at, something to read. It's almost like liner notes, like historical hip hop liner notes that will give you history of the West Coast hip hop. And it's available on my website, LonzoWilliams.com.
I'm gonna check that out. I'm really gonna check that out.
Do that. Please do.
Did you have any involvement in allowing permission use for your likeness in the NWA film?
Not a bit. And I do, trust me, I was looking to get a check, looking to sue, whatever they could. But here's the trick, and I'm gonna give you a quick legal lesson. If I tell a story and I'm a part of the story, and I'm directly a part of the story, I don't have to license the names and likenesses because it's a true story based on my life. Like right now, if I want to do a story about me and you, talking about, I want to do a story about Rocco and Lonzo's interview, I don't have to get your permission because it really happened.
Right.
Okay. Now, if a third party saw this interview, said I want to do a story about this interview, he got to contact both of us.
Right.
So, and that would not, I could have probably Suge Knighted my way into some money, but I ain't Suge Knight. Okay. That's why he in jail right now, because he was trying to get money for something he wasn't entitled to.
Right.
And it may seem like you're entitled to. That's why you asked this question. But in the world of legality, because he was a part of that story, they should, but they don't have to. Okay.
Right.
Just on the side note, my partner, Adrian Gregory, who was a former manager of Tupac, when they did the Tupac story, he got paid because it was a third party that did the story. It wasn't Tupac's family, or wasn't Adrian telling the story. It was a third party that licensed the story, so they had to pay everybody permission to use their name and likeness in the movie.
Now, Snoop Dogg got his coming out next August.
Right.
When they do these All Eyes on Me, Notorious, and NWA, all these biopics, I understand, they don't got too much time to explain the whole life story and everything like that.
Can't.
But for the NWA one specifically, did you really enjoy the final cut of that?
You know what, man? I understood. I do documentaries myself. I have 3 documentaries out right now. You only have so much time. You only got like maybe 90 minutes, 2 hours at the most, depending on what the cut is. There's no way you can condense 35, 40 years into 2 hours. You grab the highlights, you try and make the story as concise as possible and keep it in the best content that's most important at that time. And you roll from there. The Michael Jackson story, why they didn't tell about this? They had only got so much time to tell this. This man was been around for 50 fucking years.
Right.
How you going to, you can't do everything. And why is everything important? Because I watched the Michael Jackson movie. 1 minute he was in Gary, next minute he was on stage. That shit moved fast, okay? But you had to get the conclusion that you got. And not to mention, you probably got a part 2 coming.
I grew up on Invincible first.
Okay.
And then my father had the #1's DVD.
Okay.
So it had all the music videos on it.
Okay.
So we did like a midnight run of Thriller, You Rock My World. That was my favorite one. And like all those classic records, man, like that Michael Jackson movie, I think was it was fast paced. I will agree with you on that, but like you just hit it on the nail. You couldn't have gotten to the outcome if you didn't follow that pace.
Right.
So it's very interesting how and I'm sure the estate was in control of a lot of that too.
They may have been. I know a lot of folks didn't participate in the project. They didn't like it. No matter what you do, man, people, they crucified Jesus, man. So no matter what you do, somebody's not going to like it, and there's nothing you can do to make. You'll never get 100% participation in anything. I don't see it. It's not possible.
No, from a different perspective, for let's say like the Notorious, the All Eyes on Me and NWA, when you're seeing these movies come out, and sometimes there's depictions of you and your friends and people you know, colleagues, etc. How personally do you take it when they don't get it exactly historically accurate?
I've come to realize that in making movies, you have to have an antagonist. Having an antagonist is a part of the movie making process. And the Straight Outta Compton, I was the first antagonist. Okay. Right. I didn't believe in, which is the biggest lie ever told. Because if the true story was, the truth of the story was, I don't remember Ice Cube ever playing Dudos. He never played it. You couldn't tell. You had to start the story at Dudos. To my knowledge, Cube never played Dudos. I don't recall him doing that, but I can tell you the story, the scenario that they used to create that situation. Dre had done a song on his cousin Jinx called "Fuck All Them Hoes," and he played that song at Dudos. And this was back in the 80s when people still treated kids like kids. And I had off-duty cops working for me. One of the cops was an older white guy. I just talked to him a few minutes before this. And a few minutes later, we had a good conversation, talking, shooting the shit. Next thing I know, he's in my face, telling me I can arrest you. I'm like, for what? You let them play this song, Fuck All Them Hoes, with all these kids here. That's contributing to the delinquency of a minor. What are you talking about? I was so busy, I didn't pay no attention. So that scenario right there was repurposed to make it seem like Cube did something that I didn't like. Okay. And it was actually Dre played the song, and I got on Dre's ass for playing the song, and they used that in the movie. Now I know that I know the story behind that, but nobody, but they had to use that, flip that around to make it seem like I was an asshole, okay? And also made it like they didn't like the jackets. I had a jacket myself.
Right.
We all had jackets. I got pictures of us all wearing the jackets very proudly. But because Lonzo was older with the Jerry curl or whatever the case may be, they had to play him as a lightweight hater, an antagonist, easy clown the jackets. Everybody, he made Lonzo got us wearing these marching jackets. That shit, that shit is the furthest thing from the truth, but it made for good content for the movie.
But how do you take that as a man? You just take it on the chin and be like, I know the truth and fuck what they did?
The truth, I mean, it ain't gonna change nothing. If I tell you what it does do, it gets me paid to tell the story.
This is very true. This is true.
I do colleges, I do interviews all the time, tell the true story.
Even though they didn't get too much good reception, I love the Compton Dr. Dre album. And I love the Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre Missionary. I actually got the CD right here, sealed too. Did you get a chance to check out those two projects, and what did you think of the production on those? Because they're two. It's not 2001, and it's not The Chronic, and that's what a lot of people did.
Before I had a chance to really check the records out, I'd heard so much negative about him. I didn't waste my time. I have a circle of friends that are old school players that I rock with, and they are very engaged in a lot of the stuff that happens right now, especially when it comes to Dre and them guys. And we talk about it. And I heard a couple of track or two. I didn't hear a G thing. I didn't hear, what I did hear. I did not hear what I was expecting, and I kind of lost interest in the rest of it. And that's what happens when you are revered so highly. People expect some of the same thing, and maybe because of time, growth, you can't deliver the same because you're not as hungry as you used to be.
When I spoke to the DOC a couple weeks ago, he gave me his time, and something that he said on this topic was he was trying to relate. His thoughts were maybe trying to relate to another generation that had already moved on.
And I think that's one of the big problems for a lot of older hip hop artists, especially if you've been as successful as Dre has been. Your subject matter is not something that people can relate to. You know, none of us have multi-million dollar houses. You know, we don't fly private. You know, you can brag, but I don't want to hear about nobody's bragging when I'm on the bus or I'm on the train. You know, it's real hard for me to relate to that stuff. And that's one thing about hip hop, especially in the beginning, it made it very relatable.
Right. Right.
Well, people understood NWA because being harassed by the police was not just a Compton thing. It was a global thing. It was a national thing that young men experienced, whether you was in Mississippi, Louisiana, Chicago, wherever, Atlanta, wherever you were, you got cops. If you sold dope, you got harassed by the police.
Right.
And so you can relate to that stuff. So now, but again, because it happens differently in your area, you speak about your area. Okay. You speak about your territory, so now you can become a TI, you can become a Master P because you're coming from a Louisiana standpoint, you're coming from an Atlanta standpoint, you can become a Nelly because you're coming from a St. Louis standpoint. So all these different people had different perspectives on somewhat the same thing, not all the same thing, but somewhat the same thing, and that just makes for that familiarity. Just makes for, I guess, success, for lack of a better word.
My last question to you, Lonzo, would be: you see all the today, everyone's on the people my age or even younger, maybe even a little bit older. It's this TikTok, it's this Instagram. Anybody could become a DJ. Anybody could do this. Anybody could do that. What do you think separates the people that do that versus the people that think they could do it versus the people that actually do the work? Should the people that actually do the work ignore the fast food microwave aspect of it, or do you think the fast food aspect of it is going to keep being repetitive? If that makes sense, if I worded it the right way.
You did a great analogy, fast food versus organic. Okay. Just on that analogy alone, comparing McDonald's to getting a real steak sandwich, a steak someplace. You know, when you buy a McDonald's, you know what you're getting. You know, a lot of people don't like, but if people buy it, don't mean they enjoy it. Don't mean it's nutritious. Don't mean they're going to enjoy it the way they used to, because it's changed a lot over the years. So do you really, appreciate a burger because it's cheaper and it tastes good, or do you really appreciate the fact that something is organic and can help you grow? And I think, just because it tastes good don't mean it's good for you.
That's right.
And I tell people all the time, I've had people tell me, oh man, I got 20,000 records, 20,000 CDs. I could be a DJ. No, you can't. Just because you have a freezer full of food don't make you a chef, no more than a backyard full of wood make you a carpenter.
That's true. It's very good.
I play golf, I shoot pool, and I've seen guys go out and spend $2,000 for a set of golf clubs, and you still can't play. I've seen guys go out and spend $500 for a pool cue, and you still can't play. And that's what it is. You can't buy the game. You know, I've seen guys get their asses beat. One guy got a $500 cue. The other guy got a house stick and whoop his ass every time because you can't buy it. The equipment does not give you the skill necessary to make it happen. It just means you spend some money. That's all it meant.
Right.
It just means you got to invest time. You can't. Dude, I had a buddy of mine. This cat was trying to do some shit. He had a party. He didn't want to pay anybody to do the party. He had 4 rooms. He bought 4 sound systems and had them all around him, but actually was trying to DJ 4 different rooms at one time. Dude, it's hard enough to try and do one room if you really know what you're doing.
Right.
It's hard to try and do one room. You just gonna throw music on. That's what you're doing. You ain't trying to program. You just throw it. It's not possible.
I've never heard a story like that before in my life.
I know a guy who tried that. He embarrassed himself. He was trying to do some fantastic shit. All he did was ran his credit card up and embarrassed himself.
Right.
Okay. He bought 4 of the exact same systems with speakers, the whole 9 yards, and he had them like in the rooms are all interconnected. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? I'm finna make history. No, you're not. Yeah, you are finna be the most stupid motherfucker in the world.
Right.
You are the most stupid DJ in the world. Thinking you can actually rock 4 rooms at one time? Not possible, man.
No, unless you have four people like rotating.
You need.
You can't control 4 at the same time.
It's not possible. If you just want to provide music, put some pre-recorded stuff, you can do it.
Right.
Actually, on the DJ, you can't do it.
Right.
Anybody can provide music for 4 rooms at one time. Okay. Far as he goes a tape or a CD or that, whatever, or playlist, and you just have sounds in the room. Okay. Yes, that can be done. No problem. Easy peasy. But when it comes to actually DJing, looking at the crowd, trying to read this crowd, you're not going to do it.
Right.
That's what he was trying to do.
Lonzo, I appreciate your time doing this for me. Seriously.
Not a problem, Doc. Not a problem at all.
And I like sitting down with you because sitting down with you and the DOC and other people because I like learning from the horse's mouth better than.
Did DOC tell you how he became a part of Ruthless?
Yes. And the I talked to him actually twice.
Okay.
And both times, man, I've caught him in the middle of something. First time he was in his car, second time he was working out. But he gave me game just like you today, man.
I'm gonna tell you something about DOC. Okay, I'm gonna give this to you. DOC's journey started with Eve After Dark. He knows it, but he don't really know it. DOC was in a group called Feel It Fresh Crew. Feel It Fresh Crew was headed by a DJ that worked at Eve After Dark, Dr. Rock. Dr. Rock left Eve After Dark, moved to Texas, took his DJ skills to Texas, and became a very popular DJ on one of the radio stations out there working with the Tom Joyner Morning Show. While he was out there, he formed a group, Feel It Fresh Crew. Wrecking Crew blew up. We're in Texas, hanging out in Texas. Dr. Rock is there. That's my dude. We grew up in the same neighborhood. He just happened to move to Texas. We're in Texas, Texas around. He's driving Rolls Royces the whole 9 yards. And he decides he wants to start his own group, Feel It Fresh Crew. So they come back to LA for Dre to create some tracks for Feel It Fresh Crew in my studio. And that's why I met DOC in Texas, but that's why we connected. Okay. And next thing I know, he was no longer with the Feel It Fresh Crew. He stayed in LA and joined Ruthless. Okay. That's the journey of, and then everything else, I'm kind of a little foggy on, because once he joined Ruthless, 1 minute he was Feel It Fresh Crew, next minute he was with Ruthless, and hey, man, that's just a part of the history. But I told you that story because people in DOC, I told him the story. He knew it, but he wasn't as profound, because why Dr. Rock left LA was another story he didn't even know. Okay. But again, these are some of the roots of hip hop that I share that nobody else have.
Thank you for telling me that. Thank you. There was a couple of details in there that I wasn't even.
No. I told DOC how Dr. Rock got to Texas. He was like, what? I said, yeah, dude. Because everything happened around my house around the same time. And Dr. Rock got in trouble and he had to get out of town. And that's how he ended up in Texas.
Well, what's very interesting is, what if Dr. Rock never went down there? Would we have? That's what I mean. Like, I don't know, what would we have the Dr. Dre records the way they are? You know?
You know what, man? Sometimes when I think about my history in this whole West Coast record, West Coast hip hop thing, I feel like Forrest Gump. Because it's hard to name somebody in West Coast hip hop that I'm not either directly or indirectly attached to.
Right.
I have a flow chart of the various artists and companies I've had association with, and most of them are direct. And DJ Quick saw my flow chart and got pissed off. Man, why I'm not on your flow chart? I said, Quick, I didn't help you do nothing. Man, you was my inspiration. As a kid, I was a do those every week watching y'all do y'all thing. What if for you, I wouldn't have did my shit. So this is how things unfold as I get older. I don't know. I just talked to a guy just the other day. We're working on a major project, and the guy was telling me, "Hey, man," he said, "Dude, you don't know how many people you affected over the last year. What are you talking about?" I was talking to my buddy. And I asked him, said, "Do you know Lonzo?" He said, "Do I know Lonzo?" He said, "Man, I used to be Lonzo's security guard at Eve After Dark." And I don't remember. I don't remember him, but once he told me who he was, because again, you got to realize the Eve was almost 50 years ago. I don't remember everybody I hired. And a lot of these guys, I call them you in disguise now. You're 50 pounds heavier, gray hair with a beard. I don't know that guy. I know the other guy from 50 years ago. So
that's right.
Sometimes I have to jar my memory, but some guys stand out more than others. And once he told me who he was, I locked in on him. But I'm just saying, when you've been doing things in the same area for 50 years, Eve After Dark, Dudo, Skateland, Club Hall of Fame, Current Affair, and back to Eve After Dark again, you've touched a lot of people, man. You're touching people in mass numbers, 300-400 people a weekend. You won't remember all of them, but they remember you. And that's the good part. So yeah, it's all good.
Thank you for telling me all these things today, sir. And I appreciate your time. Lonzo,
Rocco, no problem, Rocco.